Hey there, welcome back to Weekly Thought Fuel with Keith and Sarah at the Leaders ICM. We are in a series on personality and how our preferences about how we interact with the world can help shape our leadership. And so this week we were talking about the third global factor. The first one was about where we get our energy from. The second one is about what information we're taking in. This week it's about how are we deciding what to do with that information that we just took in. So the ends of the spectrum that we talk about for this one are thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
So, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, very good. So thinkers tend to, or have a preference for deciding using logic and rationality, and what makes sense is really the driving factor for thinkers. Feelers, on the other hand, tend to have a preference for making decisions through the impact that things are going to have on people and how much it's fulfilling a value position or a mission statement or connection to something that tends to be more values-based in general.
Mm-hmm.
There is one of the interesting, I mean, there are a number of interesting things that come out of thinking and feeling, and you hear a lot more expressions of this because it is the deciding global factor. It's about how we make decisions, so it's more what people get to see. So there are things related to this around conflict, and things related to this around sort of like speed of action and things like that. So once a thinker kind of determines the right track, or it makes sense to them, it's like they're way out front, right? There's a lot of times for feelers, it's like they're wanting to pay attention. It takes a little bit longer to read the impact on things, and they're a little bit more cautious.
Yeah, I mean, this is silly, but this even shows up when I'm like with a group of friends and we're walking from one location to another, and it's like the thinkers are at the front of the group. They see the destination, they find the quickest path from here to there, and they're just going. And then I'm the little feeler who's kind of making sure the flock is all with us, that we're all going, that everybody gets to the destination okay.
Yeah.
And I think this is, just like every other factor of personality, there's some downsides that we need to be aware of if you haven't really matured into your personality type. That thinkers, because they're deciding based on what they find the most logical and rational, sometimes have this sense of kind of leaving behind the impact on people and sorry it's going to hurt your feelings, but you'll get over it. And feelers can get almost paralyzed by, I just want to make sure everybody's okay.
Yeah. The more mature version of that is to actually recognize this is going on in you. By the way, one thing we need to say is feelers don't have brains. Feelers do have brains. They can actually think through things. And thinkers do have feelings. Really, this is a leading edge. What's your preference for the way you tend to approach decision making? I think, Sarah, it's one of the biggest sources of conflict. And maybe people don't even have to look back before Thanksgiving dinner. By the way, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. But to know that there were people that were like, well, that doesn't make sense, or they'll get over it. You hear things like that. It kind of starts to breed conflict in feelers. For thinkers, it's exactly the opposite. It is they think that feelers, it's like emotional, wishy-washy kind of, that's not tangible, it doesn't make sense to me kind of thing. And so often this is the thing that gets on our nerves the most and leads to the most conflict.
Yeah, and it's the thing we need to be aware of in ourselves, aware of in the people around us, and get to the point that we realize that person maybe gets on my nerves sometimes, but when we can bring our best decision-making factors together and bring both the logic and the impact together, that's where we're going to have the greatest impact, make the best decision.
Guys, there's been so much research on this. The best decision-making happens when both sides of this equation are represented. So, pay attention to this with people that you've seen. Maybe even reflect back on your holidays and see, was this the source of any conflict?
We'll see you next week.